Today I'm going to talk about Enneagram Type 4 and creativity. Hi, I'm Annie, and I'm feeling okay. September was really hard for me, but October has been so much better. I have a lot of hope and enthusiasm for November and December. I'm feeling pretty good. Just as a side note, I want to say I am so happy to be here. I haven't been posting as much, and it is really not due to a lack of motivation or a lack of good ideas. I have hundreds of ideas that I want to talk about and conversations that I want to share. I just don't have time, and I'm doing too many things, and I have gotten disorganized because I am attempting too many creative projects at once. That is something I'm working on. I will likely share more about that in future videos. Today, as I mentioned, I want to talk about Enneagram Type 4. So I am an Enneagram Type 4 with a 5 wing. Something that is very interesting to me about my Enneagram description is that as I'm reading it, there are so many cringy moments for me. So when I read my Myers-Briggs type description, INFJ, I feel like the description is written in a way that it doesn't really step on anyone's toes. It's kind of like, here's your strengths and here's your weaknesses, but really it takes all kinds of people. So you might be a little bit less effective in this area, but your strength is in this area. The emphasis when you're reading a Myers-Briggs description is, it seems to be really about the strengths. When you get into Enneagram typing and you read the description of your type, what you're going to see is like, this is what your type looks like when it is extremely unhealthy and low functioning. And, this is what it looks like when it's moving into a more effective functioning, more mature integration. And then, it gives you a picture of what a really high functioning type looks like. So when I'm reading the Enneagram Type 4, I just wanted to mention a couple of things that are very cringy for me, because when I read these things, I think like, oh God, yeah, I do that. Some of this stuff is just very embarrassing. So the first thing is that Enneagram Type 4s are highly creative, but they can also be extremely self-obsessed. And their art is usually self-referential. Let me tell you about my shirt. I made this shirt. I make a lot of my own clothing. And guess who this is on my shirt? That's right, it's me when I was a little girl. So I've read this description of Enneagram Type 4 and their creativity and artwork being extremely self-referential, and I recognized right away that I do that, and it's weird that I had never noticed that before. So this shirt is just one example. Another example is one of my best-selling items in my Etsy store is an iron-on patch that is an image of my father when he was 2 years old. So it's this image here of a little cowboy, and I've made this into an iron-on patch, and that is one of my best-selling items in my shop. Now, people who are going to my shop, they don't really know that that's my father, but I just noticed looking over at my Etsy shop that so much of it is about me and my personal mythology. Now that image happens to also be universally appealing. It's the same as this image here. The title of this image is Handsome Sailor, but this is also my father when he was young and handsome and in the Navy, and when he was alive, because he is no longer alive. I read that and I just thought it was astonishing that I had never noticed that about myself before. And then looking back at my art, it's like, oh wow, it is so self-focused. It is about my personal mythology. And I love personal mythology. There is actually nothing more entertaining to me than the mystery of life, but also my own hero's journey. I find myself endlessly fascinating, to be honest. And I know that's something that people wouldn't normally say out loud. But if you think about it, there are others. Jung was really into his own personal mythology. But then as you grow and you mature, you start to see the bigger picture. It's not just about your personal mythology. It's about understanding the archetypes and understanding how the archetypes play out in other people's respective personal mythologies. As I mature, I'm starting to appreciate other people's stories just as much as I appreciate my own. It's something I have noticed about myself for a long time, and something that does does really bother me is how self-absorbed I am. I'm so fascinated by my own experience and my own story that I'm not very good at asking other people questions. Over the years, I have encountered extremely charismatic people, and something that I've noticed about them is that they ask really interesting questions. It's a good tactic to use to put someone at ease, to ask them questions about themselves. And I'm not very good at this. I don't remember to do it when I'm interacting with people. I find myself in a lot of situations where people are asking me questions, and I enjoy answering those questions. And then it just seems like they ask me another question and another question and another question. And I've just noticed a pattern that when I'm having conversations with people, it's always them asking me questions. I feel like I need to make a conscious effort to also ask them questions back, but I just get kind of lost. I never seem to get my opportunity to ask them a question and learn about them. And it's a skill that I want to work on. So here's an example that happened really recently. I had an interaction like this. I'm a massage therapist. I practice barefoot massage. That means I give people massage with my feet. And I had a new client on my table. This was the second time that I'd seen him. He said to me at some point during the massage, "I forgot to look at your feet before we started the massage. Are they big? Are they small? Are they strong? Do you have good feet?" I feel like when people ask me questions, like I have answers loaded. Like I have thought about so many things. So I had a loaded answer for that. And so he asked me this very, very simple question about my feet. And I'm not kidding here. I began my answer with, "Well, in 1985, my father died in a plane crash." And believe it or not, that circled back around to my feet. See, there is this whole mythology about my feet, and it begins with my father died in a plane crash in 1985. I mean, that's obnoxious. Really, like, why aren't my answers simpler? And part of the reason is that everything is so richly interconnected in my world. And there is this sense of story and mythology, even in the most mundane things. I do want to share my story with other people, but I also want to be good at investigating other people's stories, because part of understanding the mystery of life and understanding archetypes and meaning is to pay attention to the stories of other people as well as your own story. Knowing your Enneagram type can be really interesting, and it can also be helpful because it can show you what some of your true weaknesses are, what you might look like in an unhealthy state, and how you can move to a healthier state. But I'm warning you, some of it might be kind of cringy because when you look your demons in the eye, that's uncomfortable. So I will put a link below in the description to an Enneagram typing test you can take, and you can just start from there and read a little bit about your description. It's really interesting stuff. I hope you all are doing well and having a magical time.